A second here. And
let's get into it. 1, 2, 3. Let's get some more. Have your hands. Some more. Just get some more.
And welcome to my Whiskey Den. Tonight we have Mike and Ben with us as usual, and we were lucky enough tonight to be bringing in Jeff Schwartz, Whiskeyfellow. He is a senior contributor. Cheers. Oh, cheers! We'll start that way. There's not the wrong way to start like that.
Yeah.
He is. Oh, that thing jumped. A senior contributor over at Bourbon and Banter. He also started his own company, Whiskeyfellow. We'll get into that later. Really interesting. Puts out some really nice whiskey tastings. The one I missed that you were at the Malt House in Madison. That one where you had the 12 whiskeys for. He had three different price levels with 3 different options with 12 whiskeys you could taste for like $35 or $55. It was ridiculous. That makes me want to go down to Madison more frequently. But also, he came up with a couple little hashtags that I absolutely love. Drink curiously, because you should do that. There's all sorts of stuff you should try. And our one friend, the Whiskey Mariachi, he respects the bottom shelf as well, too. So there's some wonderful finds there that sometimes punch way above their price range. But if you don't try, you're never going to find out. So welcome, Jeff. I didn't go over some of the other stuff. See, I'm bad. I'm rambling right now. It's already happening. He's lived in bigger cities such as Miami and Denver. He has now moved to a smaller town in Wisconsin. He has a degree from the University of Madison, and the rest of it I went over. I just did it in the wrong order. So Sorry about that, Jeff. But welcome to the show. Happy to be drinking with you this evening.
Thank you so much. I do want to do one correction. Drink Curious is not a hashtag I invented. That is the Bourbon and Banter hashtag.
Okay. Well,
so I don't want to steal their thunder.
Well, I was giving it to you, so but
it's okay.
But you also have your own website where you do reviews of whiskeys, and a lot of times you're getting stuff before I get to try them, so I kind of know what's coming out ahead. So I appreciate that. A lot of that stuff, if you're looking for it, is on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. It's at Whiskeyfellow. Go check them out there. And I believe Whiskeyfellow is also the name of the website. Am I correct?
Yes, it's reviews.whiskeyfellow.net.
And that's where you can find a lot of great stuff there. You have a rating system that I like quite a bit. It's bottle, bar, or bust. Am I correct?
Correct.
Do you want to explain that for 2 seconds to people who are watching if they're going to go onto your website and take a look at some of the reviews you're doing?
Sure. This is something else that Bourbon and Banter started that I embraced as soon as I got there. I loved their rating system. And it's something that the average layperson can understand. You get people who are giving like 100-point ratings. What's the difference between a 95 and a 96 or a 96 and a 97? You get into the border of, hey, this is very good to excellent. Well, that's not really helpful. But if you take a 3-tier system, which is bottle, which means buy it, it's wonderful. Bar, which means you may or may not like it, you're probably going to want to try it first. Or bust, which means just leave it, turn around, run away from it.
Have there been many busts that you've found with trying some of the whiskeys?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. It's there. There's the least amount of rating that I ever use is bar.
Okay.
Most winds up, thankfully, as bottle. But there are a lot of busts out there.
What's been the biggest disappointment that you were hoping was going to be a bottle and ended up just being?
Okay, I've already rated this one really poorly, so I can say it. 2 or 3 years ago at Distill America, before I changed my approach there, I was lit like a Christmas tree, wound up over at Bearcat Bourbon's table, and tasted it. My palate was completely wrecked, and it had this lovely orange flavor to it. And got a sample bottle to do a review, and it was one of the worst things to ever cross my lips. But it's big difference between a dead palate and a clean palate.
Oh, completely. That's kind of the way I look at Distill America. Is my first 5 drinks might be semi-accurate, and then after that, it's do I want to try it again later, or have I just moved you off to the side for never again? Kind of.
Yeah.
And that's been a mistake as well, where I've had stuff at Distill America and other places where my palate's dead, completely unimpressive, and I try it later and it's fantastic.
There's always a sleeper.
Exactly.
But do you remember the whiskey that kind of got you started on your journey of curiosity into the whole whiskey game, basically?
The first whiskey I had, I believe, was Dewar's.
Okay.
Scotch. And it was because I was not a drinker beyond cocktails, and I wanted something quote unquote sophisticated. And my wife said, try Scotch. And we bought a bottle of Dewar's, and I was kind of hooked from there.
Oh, nice. And were you more of a Scotch person for a while, or did you jump into other realms right away?
No, I was strictly Scotch for the longest time, and sneered at bourbon. It was a much more low-class drink. Scotch was sophisticated in where it's at, and it took some convincing for a friend to let me finally drink bourbon, and I immediately fell in love with it.
That's always a nice way to do it, because I kind of went the other way, where I was bourbon and a little bit of American whiskey first, and then I was kind of hesitant because I don't think I had started with some of the better scotches once in a while, and then once I finally had a decent one, I was like, oh, this is what everyone's talking about now. I'm in for the ride now.
Sure, there's that wow moment.
Yeah, and I was like, I guess we're tasting it all now. Mike or Ben, do you remember the one that kind of started you on your path?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, it was an unlikely one. It was actually Johnnie Walker Blue.
Ooh,
it was
nice.
A bottle that was given to my brother-in-law, who does not like brown liquids, and we were at his house, and he just said, "Hey, yeah, somebody gave me that. If you want it, you can go ahead and have some. It's all open here." And I, up until then, it would just had some bourbon. I mean, this is 21 years ago, 22 years ago, and I took one sip of it. It's like, okay, and then it just kind of rolled a little. It's like I can dig this, and we killed about half the bottle. and the best thing was he didn't care. And then afterwards it was like, oh, that's how much that bottle is. But it was not. He was gracious. He didn't care, and it was just nice. Like, all right, there's something out there that's got a little bit more to it. And now I'm actually not a fan of it.
It's odd how that happens sometimes. How something you started with and thought was like, oh, this is okay, or you disliked, and then for even 8 months you're like, you flip-flopped your whole ideal on stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then what was the one that caught your eye?
For me, well, I actually had a Dewar's early on. Typical whiskey was like get a Jack and Coke or Crown and Coke mostly. And was at a friend's house, and his dad offered me a Dewar's. I was like, here, man, you need to try a real whiskey, try some scotch. And I just remember it having a sweet taste and then a little bit like licking an ashtray. I was not impressed. But a friend of mine and I were taking a trip through Tennessee, and on the way back, we saw a sign of the Jack Daniel's distillery. So we decided to stop off there and take a tour. I just was captivated by the whole thing. And I remember at the end, we walked through a rick house and the aromas from the angel share coming off. Man, I'll never forget that. I just walked away going, okay, I want to really get into whiskey. This is something that's interesting. So I did a little bit of research into it and decided I would go single malt Scotch to start. Went with the Glen 10, and it was basically love at first sip. And I never got into the I'm just Scotch or I'm just bourbon or whatever. I wanted to explore it all. But I do remember when I first started, man, I was hooked on that age statement. If it didn't have an age statement, I didn't want to touch it. And but went from Glenmorangie 10. The next one was Lafroig 15, and then had my first bourbon was Eagle Rare, and it was love at first sip with that as well. So
that's always nice when you head in that direction.
Yeah.
When you were saying the Glenmorangie 10, I remember I got the sample pack at Costco where you get the 10, the La Santa, and the Quinta Rubin all in one thing for like $100. And I was like, told my wife, I'm like, we're gonna go back for this. I'm like, I think I'm saving like $50 just by getting this. I'm already like excited about that. And they were full size bottles, and I'm like, plus it's a good way to do right away, like a nice comparison between like barrel finishes and the original and see what happens. I think that's one of my favorite starter packs for people. There's not enough people that do like a 3-pack of what they're actually selling and releasing like that. So I always find that pretty interesting. So Jeff, at what point did you kind of get involved with Bourbon and Banter, or what led you into? Were you doing reviews before you kind of got involved with them, or did you meet them and kind of just evolve into it?
I was doing my own reviews on Instagram, and one day I came across on Facebook a casting call, for lack of a better term, for Bourbon and Banter. They were looking to expand, and went through pretty rough application process with them. First one was write a review, and I remember the directions being, you can't review anything that we've already reviewed. So I said, well, this was 4 years ago. J. Henry and Sons was just online at that point. Mm-hmm. And I said, I guarantee you they haven't reviewed J. Henry and Sons. So grabbed that, did a review on that. And then I found out that I made first cut. Then they came back and they said, well, we want a second review. And this time we want something different. And I wound up doing an article on what an experiment I like to do, which is, why does glassware matter? And so I did Evan Williams in 5 or 6 different kinds of whiskey glasses and talked about that. Then they invited me on board. I am the 8th writer that they have, or writer number 8, or member number 8 for them, and it's been great from that point on. I love Bourbon and Banter.
Yeah, they have some great articles, and you guys do some really neat stuff. So I enjoy reading that. And you guys had a unique kind of barrel experience where you went down and picked one in Kentucky. And then if I'm not right, things didn't quite go accurate, and then you got to go back down. Do you want to expound upon that, or maybe leave that where it is?
No. I'm happy to talk about that. I did not go on the initial pick. But it was to Wild Turkey to do a Russell's Reserve pick. And the folks that went down there from Bourbon and Banter found a couple amazing barrels. And, wound up saying, yeah, we want this one. And then come to find out, hey, guys, it's bottled, it's ready, and it's Kentucky Spirit. And everybody went, yeah, but we don't want Kentucky Spirit. Nothing against Kentucky Spirit, but we wanted Russell's. We wanted the one
you tasted.
Yeah. You want the proof there. and we wound up refusing to accept the barrels. And then this past October, we went back down for pick 1.1 and wound up settling on an amazing barrel. And it was just it was a great experience. Got to meet Eddie, and didn't get to meet Jimmy. He wasn't there, but his cart was. And had a great time, and got to walk through the rick house and different barrels, start just pulling out of them. It was a great time. One of the better barrel picks that I've been on.
I just thought it was interesting because you guys got the point where you don't hear too many people doing this where they're refusing the barrel. Like, this is not, but I totally respect it because you're like, this isn't what we picked, and we don't want to put this out with our label on it and not have it be, what we knew and not the same quality. So I thought that was awesome. I mean, just.
I did too, because that's been my picking philosophy forever. And some people who I've picked with before are going to laugh when I say this because I say it all the time. I go into a barrel pick with the plan of rejecting everything. And, if something is wonderful, I'll take it, but I'll warn everybody up front. And if a store asks me to pick with them, it's like, you got to be prepared for me to just walk away from everything. And, it's a come up, and something's got to be unique. It's got to not be too close to what you can get on the shelf in a standard expression. And it's got to be something I'm proud to attach my name to. And if it doesn't meet those three things, I walk away.
Well, and I've heard at a couple places where they'll bring in 3 or 4 barrels, but sometimes they're not the most exciting barrels right away. And they almost are waiting for people to kind of push them into a second tier that they have kind of waiting and set aside, where they're like, oh, I guess we have to go get these now. So I think that's a really great way of doing it, because like you said, you put your name behind it, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of the things I'm really proud of is I have built a reputation as a very good picker. And, if you accept mediocre barrels, anybody can do that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Arthur in the chat says he did a barrel pick down at Balcones for their single malt, but hold on, I can put this on there. The distributor is holding it hostage. It's not releasing it, just holding on to it for a while longer. And that I can see would be kind of irritating, Arthur. I can see how that would bug the heck out of me, especially if you're waiting to get your own bottle from it. So that's.
Or you can have the disaster that bourbon enthusiasts went through.
What happened to them?
Where their barrel got basically stolen. You guys didn't hear about this story?
Yeah, I did. I mean, it's not funny.
No, I would be pissed.
Yeah.
So someone else took their barrel, or they gave it to some other company.
Can I badmouth another a store on this?
There's
this guy in California called Crazy Naz.
Okay.
And he is thrilled beyond belief and bragging about how he stole Bourbon Enthusiast's barrel of Smoke Wagon. And don't know how he did it, but it hit the warehouse, and under California law, something allows them to, lay claim to it, and the first one to lay claim to the barrel gets it. And as soon as this barrel hit the warehouse, he somehow found out, wink, wink, and it took it out from under him, and then gets on Facebook and social media and says, "Hey, I've got Bourbon Enthusiast barrel," and he's bragging about it.
That would get me to not go to your store. Like, I'm just, I would, you get a big, maybe a talking to if I went into the store, not that kind of call you a cheat. I'm like, and you're proud about it too. That's really shady.
That's the thing, is the proud about it part.
Yeah. I couldn't.
And I mean, if you go to his social media sites, he's got videos on there he'll call us stupid Americans all day long. And, it's like, dude, you can run your business however you want, but I can also badmouth you and it's okay.
Yeah. Well, not feel bad about it one tiny bit, like.
Right.
There are not too many bad people in this industry, and that's a bad person.
That's what I was going to say. I'm like, pretty much most of the people you meet in it are very kind of open and inviting with experiences and what's going on, and trying to almost more, to be honest, more helpful than they should be in some instances.
Yeah. In these distilleries, they're always helping each other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at like the Heaven Hill fire, where they lost so much of their inventory, and the other distilleries were coming in to help them out. Any other industry, people are like, oh, good, we got one less competitor.
Yeah.
Shoot. All right. Sorry, just doing that typing thing. It's good to see you, Patrick. Thanks for stopping in the chat and speak easy. Mike, Ben, OG Brick, 420. Good to see all you guys in the chat. What are all the rest of you guys drinking in the chat tonight? Let's see what you're posting out there. I am drinking Driftless Glen single barrel bourbon from them. It's only 50 months old, and it is much different than the last one we reviewed a couple weeks ago. For those of you watching the channel, that one was all pepper. This one is sweet. This is like seriously one of the most, I don't want to say approachable, but I think you could sell this anytime to anybody, and it would not be a problem with the one this one is. It's really nice.
I guess I'll have to take your word for it.
There's a sample coming. It'll get to you. It's just going to take a week or so, but it'll be in the mail. It's even poured. It's over there. But yeah.
Driftless Glen makes some very nice ryes.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, that's where most of the stuff that everyone finds is neat. That's why I was going to say with the bourbon, it's good, but I usually, I don't know, like you said, the rye is kind of like their centerpiece. Where I think like Jay Henry, like you're talking about, I usually use the reference. I'm like, if you're looking for a bourbon from Wisconsin, that's the bourbon. Like that's for me. Yeah. I'm like, that's just a very excellent expression of it. And like the original is kind of like a little of a Kentucky version of it, a little bit. But I usually tell people that's the one where if I got like the 5-year cast strength of the 7-year, I'm like, I feel good putting it up against a lot of stuff from Kentucky or other places. Yeah. I'm like it. I feel comfortable. And you were drinking the Bellefontaine, Mike, and that just threw me for a loop with all the different light flavors that come through on that.
Yeah.
And of course, they're working with Nancy Fraley. We have a thing here, Jeff, where pretty much everything she touches, we think is pretty damn decent.
You are not going to get an argument out of me at all. Yeah. Nancy is amazing.
Yeah, she's kind of good.
Nancy, that's what I'm sipping Wyoming small batch tonight. And that's what she goes there 4 times a year and does their blending for them with each batch release. So it's for a weeded bourbon. It's one of my favorites because it's just very unique, very different from the standard weeder that you only come across.
Yeah. So we kind of, it's like, oh, she's working at this distillery. Well, I guess we'll be getting a bottle then.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's pretty good.
So I got a question for you, Jeff. With your,
sure.
What would you want to change about whiskey, or that meaning the distillers or the drinkers, or anything about it? If you could change anything about it, what would you do?
Change the distribution system.
Yes. Sorry.
It's horrific. Nothing against the distributors themselves. They're working in the environment that they're given, but the distillery distribution laws are stupid. They need to change.
Oh, completely. That's why I know a couple of us here, we like Sealbox, because I'm like, I can just get something from wherever as long as they have it there, where I don't have to like wait and like it doesn't come to my house.
Yeah.
Or anything like that, but it finds its way here. But
sure.
because I know down south you guys get a little bit more, but up in Green Bay it is sometimes kind of tight for what you do get. Like we stopped at a couple of stores on the way out of town, and we're like, I could spend $500 easy with stuff that we can't get, even just like the Ballin Brothers. Like I can't find any of that up here, and they had at least the bourbon, which we picked up. I didn't find the rye, and that was your last year's rye whiskey of the year, wasn't it?
These guys, yeah,
Yes.
2019 whiskey of the year for me.
And I had that when we were at Distill America, and that was really good.
That smoked portion of it just kills it. It knocks it out of the park.
Mm-hmm. I had it a little bit later on, but I was very impressed by like the flavors I was getting I always put it like at that point in the night. I was like, damn, I'm like, Jeff was not wrong about this.
And you've got to taste it on a fresh palate. It really is a knockout.
And they had one of my favorite pieces of merch. I love their Wu-Tang Clan, how they stole that symbol. And I was like, I think I was talking to Mike, and I was like, oh, this is, you guys have this? He's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, did you bring any shorts? I'm like, because I would buy a shirt from you right now. I'm like, I love this idea. I'm like, I did a little marketing when I was younger. So I'm like, for advertising, I was like, oh, this is a home run. I'm like, this is perfect. I'm like,
probably hard to sell, maybe, but
I think
it was one of my favorite things probably my favorite thing that they were handing out.
But yeah, I know the distribution center is something you would get rid of. Is there something you would, I don't know, like you were saying, kind of with the whole distribution process, would there be a different thing you would kind of alter? Like maybe, I don't know, like I just feel like with just going off of Distill America, that there's not enough shows that are like that are geared to the average person for me, that I would like to see more shows like that happen throughout the country. That would be one of the things for me. I don't know what you think about that, because I assume you went to it for like 4 or 5 years, and probably some other shows
here there.
Yeah.
Distill is great. Distill is unique because it's nonprofit, and it's a concentration on education versus getting bombed. Nothing against the other shows. I've been to other shows. They're wonderful, but you're getting the highest level ticket. Their VIP plus is $95.
Mm-hmm.
You do that at any other show, and you're spending hundreds of dollars to get through the door. They keep it affordable because they're not making a profit. They bring in the biggest names in American whiskey. It's all American whiskey over there. There's nothing, you don't have Scotch or Irish or Canadian or anything like that to contend with. And they put on some very interesting seminars. And it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I like the people who run the Madison Malt Society. Fred Swanson's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
They're just really good guys. And it's a passion that they have, which sort of mimics mine. And I think that's why I like it so much.
No, I just like how it's open to everybody. And when you're talking about cost, Ben, who was it we were talking about? Like the show came up and we were thinking about it, and then we found out how much tickets were.
Whiskey Fest Chicago.
Yeah, it wasn't Whiskey Fest. It was a different one. It was
ADI down in New Orleans. Yeah, $750, I think. Now it's a 3-day affair. I think 3 or 4 day affair, but yeah, $750 for a non-member ticket.
Yeah, and we're like, no, I guess we won't be attending that anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean that's rough, and you're not at $750 a ticket. You're not getting to the average whiskey drinker.
Oh, not even close. Yeah, and that's what I like, is because it seems like it's to people who haven't tried stuff. It's like a come here and try different things, rather than it being you're selling to people who already know what they want when they come in, like kind of like the VIP, where it's like hour where if people are, you can tell people who come in and they're like, they're going to run, some people run right to the Four Roses.
Right.
And some of the other places, like, what's the special one you have? And like, I enjoyed, like, when everyone's doing that, I'm going up to Wollersheim, like, hey, what do you guys have? And they're like, well, we have our bottled in bond cast strength. I'm like, oh, well, fantastic. I'll try that. I'm like, I'm more excited by what the little guy has that's, you know, is new and exciting. But there is that first hour where there's a lot of people that are like, to the big guys, like, ooh, what do you have that I'm probably never gonna taste, which I understand.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know. I guess part of me doesn't find that as exciting because I'm at the table like that. I'm like, I can get or have already tried 3/4 or 90% of your table, you know? So I'm like, so I've had most of your stuff, but yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. That's what I like about it. But yeah, Ben and I were like, we're like, yeah, I'll go to New Orleans. We'll do that show.
Yeah.
I'll go with you. And then he pops back. I'm like, I remember reading about him. I'm like, and that's the group that just kind of like, you're certified if you're a certified craft distiller for it. And I'm like, that sounds awesome. That's right up our alley for what we're doing. And I'm like, not this year. I'm like, maybe if we ever do a Patreon and we save up like 3-4 years of money, yeah, then we'll go.
Sure. I mean, by the time you factor in, you know, your travel expenses and lodging and everything, you know, you're chunking out some money there for a weekend of whiskey, basically. And that's just not the average guy is just not going to have that experience.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm putting out that kind of money, it's going and it's to taste whiskey. It's a trip to Kentucky or someplace else, you know, where I'm going to be able to spend a couple days at my own pace and not be shoulder to shoulder with people.
Well,
right.
Yeah, and even
Well,
on that,
I don't mind spending $100 to be shoulder to shoulder with people for 4 hours, you know, at Distill America. But you know, you're talking again with travel, hotel, and all that. You're talking well over $1,000. That's a trip somewhere.
yeah, and even if you're just going to like Louisville, you can head down that main drag and hit 6-7, you know, different distilleries or try their stuff without even kind of leaving Louisville. You know,
Yeah.
I'm like, and it's not going to cost you what, maybe $100, $120 to stop at all of them or get a tour. I'm like, we were having that discussion. I'm like, well, would it be worth going to the Kentucky Bourbon Festival versus doing some other stuff? And I'm like, all those extras are cool that you can do. Like, who doesn't want to go drink at the old governor's mansion and have hors d'oeuvres and try different stuff? But I'm like, I can also try that same stuff going through the distillery that we're going to want to do anyway. So we don't necessarily have to show up for that weekend where everything's jacked up in price. But I don't know. That's still better than a couple other ones that they had there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all, you know, there's people who do really enjoy that, and you know, I don't badmouth it at all. It's just, it's not my thing. It's, if I'm going to spend that kind of money, it's going to be different than that.
Yeah, like having a whole experience, like you said, for a week rather than for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. If I'm chunking out that kind of change, immerse me into your distillery, immerse me into an experience, put me through a boot camp, so to speak, of what you're doing, how you're doing things. Let me experience it from the distiller's perspective, if you will, or something to that degree. Just going around and sampling whiskeys from different tables. No offense, I can do that here. I can get 10 friends together and we can put together a couple of 100 bottles of whiskey, you know, to sample, you know, for people to sample through. So that just doesn't appeal that much to me. But if I can have an experience where I can really dig in and learn something, that's something I'm willing to pay money for.
Yeah.
Oh, Arthur's taunting us again. He brought up going to Iron Root boot camp, which
Yes,
which might happen, Arthur. We told you that we might go to boot camp there, but we just don't have it planned out when. But yeah, we'll bring that up when Robert's on the channel in a couple of weeks. Maybe we'll edge him a little bit more into that.
right.
But yeah, you also have like a writing background in general, don't you, Jeff? Like that was kind of like you got your bachelor's degree.
I have a bachelor's degree in English, and that's pretty much where my writing started. I had been doing it beforehand, but you're an English major and they expect you to write a lot of papers and lengthy papers that make sense. And did that. Then after I got out of college, I started writing for a website called opinions.com, which I don't remember who bought them out. I don't think it's Amazon, but it's somebody big like that bought them out. And then did some writing on Yelp and all that before I found my niche doing whiskey reviews on Instagram and had fun from there.
Oh, I just think it's neat because not everyone gets to use like what they learned in college for their like what they want to do as a job.
Mhm.
I think it's awesome that you kind of, I don't want to say parlayed that, but just kind of built on it, because a lot of times people's degrees in college kind of get lost after they pick a different job or something happens and you don't get to stick with it.
Or you wind up with a
See
useful
that part of it's
career.
working out. Yeah, so that's awesome.
I'm curious how you have honed in or developed your review style, because honestly, I really love reading your whiskey reviews. The way you break it down, you have a simple kind of table, if you will, of the nose, the palate, and all that, which gives you some good immediate impressions, and then you really break down the whiskey. But how long did it take you to develop that style of doing your reviews?
It has been a big evolution. And I think when I started doing educational whiskey workshops and classes, it kind of followed that format. But I mean, I was all over the place trying different things. And one day I found the formula and it sort of worked. And I've stuck with that now for, probably close to 2 years with this current formula that I'm on. And it works. It's different from the Bourbon and Banter formula, which nothing wrong with that. It's not a writing style that I'm used to. I'm very conversational in my writing, and like to just write about what's going through my head at the moment. So it's been a growing experience. It's taken a number of years to get to be the quote unquote formulaic review that I've got now, but at the same time, I like to keep it in a formula so people who want different things can know where to go in it. Beginning, you get the introduction, a little bit of the backstory, then you get the facts, and then you get the tasting notes. And finally, the rating.
Yeah, and that's a fun rating system. I like that. What are you checking out other people's whiskey reviews, and what do you look for in reviews? What do you key on? What are components you're looking for when you're wanting to check out about a new whiskey or something?
I do read a lot of other whiskey reviews. Sometimes I will read them after I've written my own to see how close I came to somebody else, or to see how far away I came from somebody else. The first thing I look for, though, in a whiskey reviewer is their integrity. Integrity is a big deal with me. I am big on transparency. I will tell you everything that I can that might be a ding on me, such as, did I pick this barrel? Because, of course, I'm going to recommend something that I picked myself. But there are reviewers out there who will not write a bad review. Or if they're doing, a video review or a podcast, they will never badmouth a whiskey. So if the whiskey's not good to them, they just don't review it.
Yeah.
I don't see the point in that. And to me, to each their own. But if you're not rating bad whiskeys as bad, it makes me wonder why you're not doing that. And I wrote about this a week or two ago, where if the question is as a reviewer, what are you afraid of? And, if I write a bad review, generally it's not scathing. There's only been a couple of instances in my career where I've done that, and it's for something that's been truly god awful. But if I do a bust on a review, I'm usually saying where they can improve. What's wrong with it? What was bad with it? And most distillers take that as constructive criticism, and they'll go, oh, okay. And some of them will work on changing that. But if I'm not telling them that, that's a problem. And where this is going is if you come up and you're afraid to give a bad review, is the reason because you're afraid that they won't send you any more whiskey. And if that's your fear, why are you afraid of not getting more bad whiskey?
That's what I was going to say.
I mean, I get, not saying this to brag, but I get a lot of whiskey coming through the door. And I wish it was all bottles, as far as the rating. Have it be the best that comes through the door. I'm happy to drink great whiskey all day long. But I've got to tell the story about when it's not good also. And again, it's an integrity thing. How can I trust you if everything you rate is good?
Yeah. We got one that we reviewed that'll be coming out in a week or two that it's what do we Traveler's whiskey? Like it's more it's I don't know how to explain it. Like it's not great. It's only like I would say okay at best.
Mm-hmm.
But we understood where it was coming from, like as far as why it was sold and kind of why it was that way. And it's probably more of a mixer than what it was an actual whiskey for a lot of people. So yeah, we have one kind of like that where I'm like, we're not really trying to smash someone, but it's like, we get where you're at, but we also thought, you could be doing much better for the time frame that they had with it, or
Sure.
There are different steps with it. So we're hoping they take it as constructive criticism.
As long as you're kind with a quote unquote bad review, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, you don't have to be a jerk about it, but you can constructively break it down, in the right way, I think.
I think it was vacationer's whiskey is the way we kind of phrased it.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. So, but that's and I do like the way you break stuff down too and kind of get into it, because you can also tell different points, Jeff, that you are kind of more that storyteller person with some other stuff that I've read where you're kind of, like you said, free flowing the thoughts that are coming through your head. So it's neat to hear you have to break that down and almost be like the opposite of the style you almost kind of standardly write in. So that's pretty cool.
Thank you.
So is there a flavor profile or or something about it that you're a sucker for that's hard for you to get past?
I like different. I mean, if you give me something that isn't a Me Too whiskey, I'm automatically attracted to it. Because anybody can do a 51% bourbon or a 51% rye and have it appeal to everybody because it's easy. It's made for the masses. Mm-hmm. But if you do something that's different, I sound like I'm on American Idol now, something that's uniquely your own, to me, that's exciting because A, you're willing to take a chance.
Yeah.
And B, it shows me you've got skill. You've got creativity. Even if it's not the best thing out there, the fact that it's different is exciting to me.
Yeah. And that's, what else do we have recently? Was that Jimmy Redcorn that you guys sent me from Highwire Distilling? Just a different flavor with it than what I was accustomed to, especially with, I was kind of comparing our red corn versus their red corn, and that we have like with Jay Henry and some other stuff. But it was very interesting. It was much more kind of oily, which it explained in their whole process. But it had, I don't know, it was the one whiskey where I actually liked it at lower proof rather than higher proof.
And that happened.
Yeah.
And that, like, I don't want to say it freaked me out, but I was like, I can't believe I'm saying this, because normally I'm like, yes, cast strength, higher proof. I'm usually more flavor. We hit that one, and I was like, no, I like the 47.5. This is where it's at. You guys did an excellent job of kind of picking where it was watered down to where you hit it and found that really nice flavor profile. And that was one of the first ones. Like, you know what, I like the shallow one better. I'm like, it's got way more flavors jumping out of it.
It lost its uniqueness with the higher proof was good. It is good. But it lost that uniqueness about it. But it also it was a bourbon so different. I mean, it's bourbon, but if I give it to you in a flight of bourbons, you would not pick it because you're like, this isn't bourbon. I don't, you push it off. But if you have it on its own by itself, like, try this, and then, oh, by the way, it is classified as bourbon, but it doesn't taste like a normal bourbon. It just has a nice, a different flavor to it. It's just extremely pleasant and very funky. And like, I appreciate everything that you guys are doing to make this happen. And I don't know that it justifies the price of the bottle, but it's pretty good and unique.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Jeff, you're basically preaching to the choir, because that's what, where I'm at in my journey with whiskey right now. It's challenge me and give me something unique. And I think that's one reason I'm so in love with Iron Root. And it's currently, their Harbinger is my favorite bourbon right now, because it's not Kentucky. It's different, and it's really damn good. And I see we got My Bourbon Journey. Scott's in the chat.
Hey, Scott, how's it going?
Hey, Scott.
And I want to take a second and throw a shout out to a couple of guys, Jim and Steve, that have a podcast called Whiskey Congress. And I've been following them for about the last year or so on Twitter. They do some whiskey reviews, but they talk news, they talk politics, they talk sports. And the whole premise is basically like two guys sitting in a bar just having a conversation about what's going on. And I'm not going to push political viewpoints or anything here. I don't think this is the place for it. But I appreciate these guys, because they bring some different independent viewpoints that will challenge you. And I'm always for not getting yourself into an echo chamber and challenging yourself with other people's opinions. I think whiskey is a great place for that as well. So I just urge everybody that's tuning in tonight, check these guys out. They're on Facebook, they're on Twitter, they have a podcast. They've done YouTube in the past, and I think in recently discussing with them, they're looking to jump back into it as well. But it's a great conversation they have. A lot of fun, just a really good thing. So check those guys out. Whiskey Congress.
Didn't you say the one poor guy has to take a break, or is he feeling better with stuff?
Yeah, one of the guys I think suffered a bit of an injury, and so he's had to take a break from whiskey for a little bit while he's recovering. But
so we're hoping you get healthy soon.
Yeah,
so you can get back at it. But yeah, that's the other, like, you brought them up one other time. But yeah, just talking with people and being able to discuss things is, when we were talking about this one other time, it's something that's kind of vaguely been lost. Like, even at least whiskey, when you can talk with people, you can kind of challenge people on viewpoints sometimes, and it's not like you're being mean. It's just like expressing your opinion. Where that, in like general speak and talking with people in general, especially about political views, has kind of been taken out of everything, Or when I grew up, it was like a healthy discord. Now it's like, just shut the F up about it, And I mean, that was kind of something when I was younger with some of my relatives. It was, you'd have a drink and you'd discuss things, talk about it. You might get a little excited, but it wasn't like anyone's feelings were hurt, and everyone was still having a good time. So yeah. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Sorry about this.
Yeah, an escape artist.
Someone just got up. It's okay.
That wasn't too bad. He was in an hour in before he had to do anything with them.
Yeah, good deal. So
all right,
Jeff,
I got
two of your favorite.
Sure.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh no, go ahead. You started. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask Jeff. I saw his couple of his desert island whiskeys, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof and Stag. Is there a favorite batch or a favorite year of Stag that stands out to you more than others?
Stag is something that has grown. Stag Junior has grown into a much better whiskey. It started off very rough. As far as George T. Stag goes, which is, I think, what I put on my Desert Island whiskey, really love the 2016. I have one or two more pours of that left out of that bottle, and that bottle's gone forever.
Yeah.
There's like anything else out of BTAC, there's good years and there's mediocre years. Hate to say it, but a lot of 2019 was mediocre. But there's nothing that's bad in there. They're not releasing any busts. It's just, am I really excited to have something, or is it okay?
Sure.
Yeah. And on a lot of those, I'm kind of, if I win it at a lottery, I'm happy. If I'm not going to pay secondary prices for it,
Right.
I'm like, if I can, 89 to 130, 140 bucks is what a lot of them are at lottery. I'm like, I'll give it a whirl. I'm happy to find it. Like I got a Pappy 15 last year that way for like 110. But at the same point, when I went out with places, I brought it along, and I forgot. I think we were in Chicago and we were at a hotel, and a couple of people were like, "Oh, they got it here. We should try it." And I'm like, "Dude, it's like $65. We'll just go up to my room."
Yeah,
we'll go up to my room. We'll come back down. You tell me if you think it was worth a whole bottle of something else, because it's nice and it's very good, but it's not. I don't know. When you get. Hell, sometimes when you get over $100 for a bottle of just bourbon, I think you got to kind of question things sometimes. So if you're paying $60 for an ounce, I get really iffy.
I stopped chasing whiskeys 2 years ago. The only time I ever get into secondary pricing is at a charity auction, because at least the money's going to something decent.
Mm-hmm.
But I will take a good store pick over anything allocated and buy the store pick all day long. If I happen to stumble onto, hey, we have a bottle of George T. Stag here, do you want it at retail? Well, yeah. But I'm not looking for it either.
No.
It used to be an obsession where I'd get in the car and drive to every freaking liquor store in 3 states to try and track this stuff down. And it's like store picks are just so awesome right now that I'd rather, if I'm going to grab a unicorn, I'm going to grab a great store pick.
Yeah.
And I agree with you on that completely. The store picks or the barrel picks. Like we've reviewed some stuff, like we said, from Driftless, Glen, where other people are picking single barrels, and they have each been really unique for each one, and kind of not black licorice fan. So with the Rise, not stand out for me, but I can totally respect some of the flavor profile and layering that's going on there compared to the average one. And a lot of times they're coming out, it's something really unique, and that works out for a lot of different companies if you get to do a barrel pick.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point here, when they get done with it, I do have an Iron Root Evolution barrel that they're working on, where I've got the first 2 bottles, but I haven't got the third one. So they'll take about a third of the barrel out each time that they barrel a set of bottles to let more oxidation happen. And then they'll, wait another 6 or 8 months and then do another third of it, and then do the last third at the end. And I'm waiting until I can get all 3, because I'm too tempted, thinking that I would drink too much of the first 2 to give other people a fair shake at tasting this, like what actually happens at the process of that happening. But that was like a barrel pick that Josh and Gretchen Holiday and the guys at Cast Drink did a couple years ago, where they found the barrel and then they played with it more. And I'm like, that's, like I said, the barrel picks are just kind of a really unique thing, and you get some great stuff out of it. So you're 100% right on that, especially most of them are $50-$60.
Yeah, I mean, they're affordable, and you're going to get that. If you're going somewhere where they've got a good reputation for picking, you're going to get something special.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So is there you don't have to name any names, I wouldn't ask you to, but is there a whiskey that you don't want to tell people about?
No. Nope. I review everything that comes across my palate. I've got no secret whiskeys.
Okay.
All right, we're getting kind of close to the end. So, were there besides? We talked about this before, so we didn't bring it up on the actual channel. Was there anything at Distill America that you found that you thought was pretty unique? One or two things that you found?
Yeah, there was out of St. George's a baller single malt, and it's a Japanese style single malt. You tasted a lot of it reminded me a lot of sake. It had plum in there, which was just really cool. And American single malt is coming into its own right now. I mean, it's been around for a long time, but it's starting to become an exciting category. Yeah. And that was probably one of the most interesting things that I tasted at Distill.
That was one, like you said, about single malts that I really thought too, like where people are saying rye is coming into its own. I already think rye is kind of hit. Mm-hmm. Like rye is huge. Like that's a big thing. But the single malts are the ones that I think are the next really kind of cool subcategory. And I know last year the one, and a lot of people have had it already. It was Rua from Great Wagon Road Distilling. When we had that, I was really surprised by that one compared to like a lot of other ones. Kind of tasted like a bear claw, and I was like really impressed by that. I was like, that's what we came down to, is like a bear claw, and I said like a little bit of strawberry in at the end, but like an apple bear claw with a little bit of strawberry and the frosting and the breadiness to it. And I was like, that was my surprise whiskey of last year. And I was like, it's also like a sleeper because you could drink that wwithout having a problem, with dangerously fast. How about that?
Yeah.
Dangerous whiskey, yeah.
And the things I found that I thought were pretty neat were the Hangar One vodka was the Citron. That was one where my wife actually found that, and she came up. Her grandma used to be Grandma on the Rocks, was her nickname. So she came up and she's like, this could turn me into Grandma on the Rocks. And I was like, well, what are we talking about here? So let's go get a taste. And she was right, like warm, no ice, no anything else in there. She's like, I could drink this straight. I'm like, I agree with you on that. Non-whiskey, because that's some of the thing that surprises me is like the nut.
Please.
It teases people. The other non-whiskey one that actually I thought was great towards the end of the night was, I forget the company, but they made cantaloupe liqueur. And after all the bourbon and everything else, like I had that, and it like washed me out. I felt really refreshed and like ready to go. Like, let's go find 4 or 5 more things. Like we could like I kind of got like a second wind of it, and I was like, it happened twice. Where I was like, I think I found Mike later on. I'm like, Mike, have you tried this? He's like, well, let's get over to this table. I'm like, all of a sudden you're like, yeah, let's go find something else again. I mean, they were nice enough to not pour it in the glass you had. They had their own little shot glass of it. Yeah. But that was another thing where I was like, I probably would never try that in general. I'm not going to go to the shelf and stuff and be like, let's get this. But like now, if I saw it there at the liquor store, I would probably get a bottle. It was pretty surprising. Did you find anything else, Mike? What did you find that was kind of interesting there?
The cores I thought were very interesting. The flavored vodkas were interesting because those are things I would never seek out. I would not go to the store and browse and go, this sounds cool, I'm going to get this because it doesn't alleviate the work that goes into it. The flavor was good, especially at the end of the night, catching the third wind and going back through there. It was about right. But one of my favorites was the Wallersheim, the pre-production cast strength bottle that they had out. That was really good. that was really good. Finally trying the Balcones cast strength rye. That was really good.
I will agree with you on that one.
And the DeMello's guy, he was fun. I mean, he was a really good salesman on there. And again, I appreciate how much he loves his stuff, and it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun liquor.
Yeah, and the Balcony straw, like you're talking about, when I had that, I was surprised. I was waiting to get slapped around by it, like just abused by it, and it wasn't like that at all.
Yeah,
or at least not for me. Like, it had flavors, but it wasn't like, it took me up against the wall and slapped me around for a second. I was like, oh wow, I'm like, this is really enjoyable and nowhere near as aggressive as I was like bracing myself for.
No,
like, there's some rides where it's like, just hold on for a second. Like, I'm going to get, I'm going to get attacked flavor wise and heat wise.
A little rough. Yeah.
And like some black licorice, which I'm not a fan of. And that I was like, this drink's so far under proof. It's kind of ridiculous, and I love when that happens.
Yeah, you need to get some of that Balcones Juntos or whatever it's called.
I know.
Tequila finished. Oh my gosh, man. That's like Brimstone's wicked cousin. It'll slap you around. It'll slap you around, but in a really good way.
Yeah, I'll be looking at it. I had a road trip down, so I'd like to get to the distillery and try those. That was one thing nice so the rep, is it Alex? Was that his name?
Yeah,
Alex. For Balcones. We had a nice chat about Texas whiskey, and he's like, well, who all have you tried? And I was like, well, main ones I have had Garrison and some TX. With TX I didn't care for. Iron Root, obviously, you really like it. Balcones, but it's so. That's the thing too. There's that little bit of Texas note, but it's so different. Where Balcones is like a big, up yours. This is Texas whiskey. Deal with it. Shut up. We're from Texas. Whereas the Iron Root guys are there. It has there's still that little bit of Texas funk that you can pick up, but they're really working. They're working I shouldn't say the craft part, but the refined part of it. You could tell that they've got that background in brandies, because they're just the way that they're working the stills and trying to go deeper cuts and get it oilier, and it just has that brandy mouthfeel to it. And just the different stuff they're doing with corn versus Balcones, like, well, we're going to go younger and funkier and screw you. And everything I've had from theirs it's good. Even the polarizing Brimstone, which I love, but it's so that's. I wish that all of those guys could go up to distill too, because I think that would be a huge contrast. Some of the nice even seeing Templeton Rye up there, which, I am a proud Iowan, but I would still rather have bootleg Templeton Rye than the stuff that they put out on the bottles. But in contrast, you can still get it. I might know somebody. But the contrast of something that's just kind of even across the board versus something like that like Balcones, and then picking the range in the state. This is the aggressive, and this is the refined.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was surprised by how many ryes there were softer ryes, like Great Lakes, Cody Road, Yahara Bay had one, I think, and a lot of them were but a lot lighter and friendlier than some of everyone else trying to attack you the whole time.
Yeah.
I thought that was a little bit different. So I that was another thing I kind of picked up from there.
It's kind of a characteristic of the northern United States or northern Midwest. They all are, they kind of, I think, fit in a bubble. There's nobody's getting aggressive.
Unless
at least what I've had,
I was going to say, unless you're getting like a single barrel pick or something like that, where they're like kind of coming at you a little bit, but no.
I'm curious, Jeff, quickly before we finish up here, where do you see the next frontier for bourbon? I mean, we're starting to see a lot of they're using, I'm seeing some sherry finishes and different things like that, and you've had the explosion in craft. What do you see? Where do you see this going? What's the next frontier, so to speak?
I don't know that I've got an answer for that.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got, I see continued experimentation. people, because I think the market right now is so saturated with standard bourbons that people are realizing we've got to do something different. And whether that's finishing or doing what like Harlan Wheatley does and using crazy experiments to see how they come out. And, you know, there are thankfully a lot of Harlan Wheatleys out there who are just curious as heck as to what happens, and they're willing to take a chance. I think that's where it's going.
Okay.
And that'll be interesting when, like you said, it's going to be kind of something unique, and it'd be like, this might be someone's whole, like a standard that you're not used to. There's like almost a whole unique flavor profile kind of coming
Sure.
I think that's why you've seen Texas just explode on the scene in the last few years, because they've come out with a product that's regionally distinct, and it's really good, and it's not Kentucky, and it's not copycat of everybody else. And yeah.
Well, like we were talking, like, and it's weird how many distilleries are popping up everywhere. Like just in general, like where Mike is at Kansas City, I'm like, you're almost like a mini explosion there, because there's probably like 8, maybe 10 distilleries not too far from Kansas City, and they're all doing a little bit something different. But I don't know if there's like a unique flavor profile in the area, but like I don't know. My concern is I think we're getting also kind of close to a bubble of a ton of craft distilleries, kind of like but it didn't happen for beer yet. And I thought that was going to happen for beer because, like, hell, Green Bay has 9 distilleries in it now, or breweries in it. And I'm like, well, there's going to be a leveling off at some point. And I'm kind of thinking that's might be coming up even, which might be fine to, you know, get rid of some, as long as the people doing something unique, that you're making your name for yourself with that unique whiskey, are probably going to be the ones that stick around, because you can get the average stuff from a lot of the big guys. But
you're seeing a lot of the big guys grab up some of these craft distillers because they are doing something different.
Yep. And it's like adding it into their portfolio, which I understand, because, you know, getting a couple millions of dollars and getting to go take a break or go start up something else again, all brand new, something you wanted to do differently is a good idea. But yeah,
there are also more distillers out there, more startup distillers out there who have no interest in selling out. And, you know, they're doing it for the love of it, and they're really proud of what they have, and they're not looking to be multi-millionaire/billionaires. They want to be distillers.
Yeah.
And more power to them. I've got a lot of respect for that.
Yeah.
Well,
love the product.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, it's having I don't know, just like backbone and faith, and I don't know, a lot of like pride in what you're doing. Like, I don't want to sell it to anyone. I like what we're putting out. A lot of people like it, and that's why I'm going to stick around. And, you know, I don't think a lot of them are thinking, like, some people will think like, well, maybe someday I'm an Elmer T. Lee or Blanton's and someone's going to name a whiskey after me 50 years from now, you know, but they're like, I want to make my own mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you see a lot of people that jump in, and they're business people, you know. They have a certain skill and a certain craft they can bring in, but at the end of the day, they're business people. But then you've got others, basically, they're artists, you know, and this is their art. This is their, you know, this is their, you know, their canvas that they work with, or whatever. But and those are the ones I think that they do it for the love of what they're doing, and not for this is another business we started, so to speak. But
well, and there's a lot of control that you have to consider when you get bought out. You know, is the parent company going to let me continue to do what I was doing,
right?
Or are they going to say, no, you need to go into this formula, and that's high money, and that's what we want?
Yeah. Or you were doing cast strength stuff. Now you're going to bring it down 8% because it's profitable to come down 8%. We can get how many more bottles out of it by coming down this chunk, and we'll all make money that way. And you're like, I don't want to do that.
All right, let's get our corn out of Nebraska or Iowa or somewhere instead of sourcing it locally instead, because it's going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
Or the type of corn, like that seems to be the big thing is, do you want to pay more for a unique heirloom grain, or do you just want to go with the standard yellow dent on a lot of things and get it kind of pushed out there faster?
Yeah.
But
or like the old guy at Wood Hat, he's growing his own heirloom corn, making his own barrels. He wants to be successful, but also, let's do this without incurring a lot of debt, but we can still make something nice. He's a cool old dude. It's pretty good whiskey too. It's unique enough, but they're controlling everything that they're doing. Yeah. And they're certainly not skimping on some of their stuff that they've got. They just figured out a way. Well, why do I need to go this way to do it? And I can make it unique this way.
Yeah. And they're even doing, I think it was weird. A couple weird barrels that they were doing that I wasn't expecting. Like,
Chinkapin oak and using red, white, and blue corn. And
they were even doing some unique stuff like that. But I liked him. He's like, well, why are we getting everything from out of state? This makes no damn sense. And I'm like, I get that. I like where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But
talking about the red, white, and blue corn, Wallersheim just did that last year, where they had a red, white, and blue that was the percentages of the colors in the American flag.
Yep.
And that was Tom's formula. And then they went ahead and released the component whiskeys, which was the blue corn, the red corn, the white corn, just standard that went into that. It's a fascinating, unique way to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that was like proceeds of that went to I want to say Veterans of Foreign War, but
it went to vets.
Yeah, I went to vets for what it was, so that's why it kind of matched kind of the flags line up in there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like that's another one where like you get to taste the combination, and then you get to see like where stuff came from. Like once you break it down, you're like, okay, this flavor came from this one came from that one. Yeah. So yeah, I totally respect. I thought that one was really neat. That's another one I missed on too, which I was not happy about, but it happens. You can't get everywhere, and they sell.
At the end of the day, there's always something unique right around the corner.
Yeah. But yeah, we've gone over the hour mark, and we don't want to keep you on too long, Jeff. So I think we'll probably call an end to it here.
Okay.
And we appreciate everyone coming in the chat. Eli, Arthur, Speak Easy, everyone who's out there, still appreciate you stopping in. Thanks for joining the chat tonight. And thank you, Jeff. We really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Giving a little bit of your backstory. It's nice to hear that from someone who's been working in it for a while and kind of honing his craft, where we're kind of just starting out, trying to find our own niche and our own kind of how we're working into it. So it's good to hear that from you.
Well, thank you for having me on, and I'm happy to come back whenever you want.
We might be doing that again at some point. So we appreciate it. And remember, go to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's at Whiskeyfellow and thewhiskeyfellow.com, if I'm correct.
Reviews.whiskeyfellow.net.
Reviews.whiskeyfellow.net. So stop out there, check out some of Jeff's stuff. He's got some really good reviews. And like I said, he's usually a couple weeks ahead of something I'm doing. I might have the bottle or it might be on its way, but you're always a step ahead. So it's good to sometimes it's nice to see that I'm not getting that lemon before I get there. So you're coming like, no, this one's going to be okay. I'm okay with where we're headed. Right. You guys will be happy to get this one, Mike and Ben. It'll be okay. So cheers, everyone. Thanks for stopping in. Yeah. You guys have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3. Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3.